Welcome to an all-new episode of Looks and Wisdom Sundays with me, Oluchi B. Hey guys, and welcome to another exciting episode of Looks and Wisdom Sundays with me, Oluchi B. Please say the B, okay? AKA the elusive pundit. Honey, how are you feeling? How are you feeling, T?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good myself. So as you guys know that in the month of September, we were actually looking at different relationship dynamics between the mother and the child. I was very intentional about focusing on the mother and not a parent. I wanted to look at specifically the mother and child relationship dynamic. The first one we did was the enabler mother syndrome, and our celebrity example was Mihlali Ndamase. And then the week after that, we did the authoritarian parent, and our celebrity example was DJ Zinhle. Last week, we did the authoritative parent, and our celebrity example was Bonang Mateba. And this week, we are going to be looking at the cold mother syndrome, which is a mother that is non-maternal. And for this episode, we're going to be looking at two celebrity examples. Am I not the generous queen?
Hello.
I am the generous queen, okay?
Yes, it's Ellen.
So the first one so our first celebrity example is gonna be Ricky Rick. I know Ricky Rick's mom hates to see me coming because I did an IG review on her book, and then I did another review on my YouTube channel. I think it was like 2 months ago, but on season 1. And then again, I'm using her as an example. I'm sorry, Queen, I love you, but we need this to happen, okay? And then, so obviously Ricky Rick's examples and my analysis is going to come off of the book his mother actually wrote after he passed away. I think Ricky has been gone now for like 3 years. And so it's a sad situation. He actually unalived himself. So we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to focus on what we can learn from that experience between his relationship with his mother and what we can get from this book about that dynamic. And then our second celebrity example is, before we get into that, Ricky Rick, for those who don't know, Ricky Rick is a hip-hop artist. I like speaking in present because I feel like even when people have passed, they still are present, because I was listening King Godin. What is that?
Godin.
Of course,
Hey.
darling. I'm the queen of looks, so I'm always eating the cotton. So he's Mr. Cotton, Mr. Cotton Fest, Godin, one of the revered hip-hop artists in the country. And so we're just going to be speaking about him. And then the second celebrity example for today's episode is another hip-hop mogul. His name is Anati. Mr. Be Careful What You Wish For. Mr. Ieza, the original Kwakwi. And then, so I'm going to be getting my analysis off of an interview that he did with his entire family back in 2017. When did Be Careful What You Wish For come out? 2017, hey?
2017.
Yeah, so he did that interview with Anele on 3 Talk with 3. Yeah, but I'm going to link that interview down below. But obviously, I'm going to link another interview of Ricky Rick when he was speaking to Slicker about the Cotton Fest. He does touch on his family dynamic. But without further ado, this week we are doing the cold mother syndrome. Let's get into the definition, because you know we love a good definition over here at Looks and Wisdom. So the definition of a cold mother syndrome is where one's maternal figure is emotionally absent. So it's lack of emotional presence by the mother to the child or to the children. And then emotionally cold mothers put a psychological distance between themselves and their children. Cold mothers may not appear happy, fulfilled, or excited by their children's growth or accomplishments. Their coldness leaves a lasting effect on the children with respects to their psychological and emotional well-being later on in life. So a cold mother syndrome is where the mother is not emotionally present. You see the mother and the mother just there, not supporting you emotionally, and is not an emotional person, not nurturing, not available. Okay? And then this definition is from choosingtherapy.com, because I didn't want to leave it at this. I actually went to go find another definition which I think speaks more to what we're going to be talking about today. And that definition comes from an article ran by BBC on ambivalent mothers. Ambivalent just means you're not there. It's like a touch and go situation. So maternal ambivalence. Maternal means feminine mother. Ambivalence means you are not present. So maternal ambivalence, the definition of maternal ambivalence is defined as feeling complex, often contradictory emotions around motherhood. Ambivalence doesn't stem from a lack of love for the child. Indeed, mothers who identify as ambivalent tend to be very clear that they would do anything for their children. However, they do not have that strong maternal bond between themselves and the children, and might also feel anger, resentment, empathy, boredom, anxiety, guilt, grief, or even hate towards their children. So the first definition about cold mother just meant that they were not emotionally available and not nurturing to the children. But maternal ambivalence means that you know you are a mother, you wanted to be a mother, you love your children. It's just that not oftentimes you also feel negative feelings towards that maternal, that motherhood that you're being put in. You are angry, you don't like the child, you don't want to be around the child, okay? So moving over to how you can identify an emotionally cold mother. The first one is lack of empathy. So cold parents tend to struggle with displaying emotional availability towards their children. And by this I mean they cannot relate to your emotional struggles. And the example I will give about this is, you know, sometimes when you are a teenager and you start jollering and you have a little boyfriend, and if you have an emotionally cold mother, they will not support that. And furthermore, when, let's say, a breakup happens and you're like 15, you're like crying and emotionally and trying to get your mother to be invested in your pain, they will actually not feel any need to be invested. Actually, there will be distance. They will not be able to empathize with what you are going through. Goes for a boyfriend. It also goes for academic achievement. If you're failing in school, they can't relate to you. So lack of empathy just means that they can't relate to you on an emotional level. They can't feel your pain or your joy emotionally. So the second identifier of an emotionally cold parent is difficulty expressing love. You know what, T? I actually thought this was like a black parent thing. I thought it was like everybody had parents. Like, did your parents ever kiss in front of you or be huggy, lovey-dovey, like?
Not really, but boom, 4 kids.
I know, right? My parents have 5 kids, but I've never seen them like, ooh, you are the love of my life type of vibes.
Same.
No. So difficulty expressing love. Cold parents may find it difficult or challenging to express affection towards their children, resulting in a lack of emotional warmth. There's this example that's always on the internet, and I always feel like, you know what, that just means that your parents have difficulty expressing love. And it's always that they always say, like, the fathers always like open the door and ask, are you winning? instead of sitting with you down and trying to find out what's going on in your life. So they will never be like, oh, T, how's it going with school? And then they will just randomly open the door at like 2 o'clock in the morning and be like, hey, T, are you winning? So that's because they can't express love. And another one is that they never tell you they love you. I never got that from my parents.
Same.
Never, ever, ever, ever. Even when my dad was dying, he didn't like, yeah, guys, I love you. Like, no. The guy was just like, shit, I'm dying.
You don't see yourselves.
Guys, please, we do not intend to make fun of emotional things, but we are traumatized human beings, so we can only find humor in this. The third thing is inconsistent emotional presence. So the third thing is inconsistent emotional presence. So that means that your mother's emotions are unpredictable. Sometimes she comes in, she love bombs you guys, buy you all the presents and all the gifts. And then other times she's like distant, she comes in, locks the door and goes about her business. And then the fourth thing is disinterest in the child's life. Like they don't care. On my end, like I was actually thinking about this when I was doing research on this. I was one of those children that were involved. Like I was in the school choir in like grade R, and then after that I was part of the I did volleyball, I did squash, I got into acting, I did dancing, believe it or not. I was a dancer, you guys. I did everything. Like I was always an involved child. And then even in high school, I was involved. I was there. Like I was the editor in school, editor-in-chief for the school mag. The events, I did everything. But I don't remember once in my life that my mom showed up or my dad showed up. And I always used to make an example that this was something new to them. So they were not very comfortable with that. But that's what I mean by disinterest in a child's life. They are not present. Like they were like, yeah, you're going to be fine. But really, you just need your parents to be there. Actually, when I was doing research for this, I found a lot of mothers who suffer from this called mother syndrome actually suffer from that. Like, badalele isikolo sakho, I'm buying you all these expensive things, I'm paying for your fees, I'm supporting you, like, I'm giving you the coin. Like, I'm the man, like, I'm providing, so I don't need to be there emotionally present for you. That they don't have accountability. For example, if they hurt your feelings, they're not going to be accountable for that. If they break something that belongs to you, they're not going to be accountable to that, and. Additional characteristics include constant criticism, blaming, gaslighting. So I'm not going to be explaining all of those things. I think they're pretty much self-explanatory when the only thing that you ever get from your parents or your mother is criticism. Oh, you're not doing that. Smang Mang next door is doing this. Smang Mang, my cousin's child is at New York, you hear like that criticism. Also blaming, yeah, no, it's your fault that I wasn't there. If you did this, I could have done that. And also just gaslighting in terms of, yeah, what you feel was supposed to happen didn't happen. So we're going to move over to what causes a mother to be emotionally unavailable after the ad break. I did this last week. Guys, I'm very dumb as a human being in real life. So what causes a mother to suffer from the cold mother syndrome or to be emotionally unavailable for their children? So the first one is that they were probably emotionally abused or neglected as a child. So they had an emotionally unavailable mother. They were raised by their grandmother who was emotionally unavailable. Whatever it is, they experience it themselves, so they don't know any better. So, let's all get cold. And then she's struggling with mental health. So she could be suffering from postnatal depression, just general mental health issues, we don't know. And then she could also be emotionally immature, and that just means that your mother is not did not develop emotionally to be able to have capacity to actually be a mother and raise a child. And then the fourth thing is that she's burnt out, meaning that she actually has a lot going on her plate, which also works hand in hand with postpartum. Either she's burnt out at work, or burnt out in a relationship, burnt out with her family dynamic, and then the last one is she's probably grieving, maybe grieving her old self, because giving birth is a big thing, guys. It's not like if you give birth today, you're going to be like, I'm taking a break for a couple of years and then you guys can bring the child. No, it's not. It actually is a lifetime commitment. And some people have a hard time just grasping that. And then, so we're going to look at how this affects the child/adult as they get into their adulthood. So some of the symptoms in the child or the adult that was raised by a co-parent include low self-esteem, where they are not confident in themselves and who they are. They have self-doubt, which means that they question themselves and their decisions. They have paranoia tendencies, which means that they do not have trust a lot. They can't trust situations, so they're always paranoid about where they are, who they with, what they say. And then they have impaired decision-making abilities. That just means that they can't make a decision, and if they do make a decision, it's very difficult for them to stick to that decision. And then the next one is tendency to be a people pleaser. And because if you grow up with a co-parent, it's always going to be like you exerting yourself towards your mother, because they push and bring. So you might have people pleasing tendencies. And then not able to express emotions. They tend to be cold themselves because they didn't grow up in a warm household. So it just makes sense for them to be cold individuals towards other people, not emotionally available or can't tap into the emotional psyche. And then they have abandonment issues and trust issues that stem from being neglected as a child, because your mom's busy pushing the career or busy pushing her propaganda. And then other ways in which the child gets affected is that they can have challenges in forming deep connections with other people. So they tend to be loners, and they tend to want to keep to themselves, and they can't form strong relationships with friends, with colleagues, with romantic partners, because obviously they suffer from that attachment style. And then they have tendencies to engage with emotionally available partners, because they're also emotionally available, so they attract emotionally unavailable partners. Another thing I did find out is that especially the male species who grow up in these type of households tend to date older women as well, and tend to date people who are like their mothers. So it continues that cycle of emotional unavailability. And also they have unhealthy relationship parents, where they find themselves in unrequited love situations where you tend to love someone who doesn't love you back, because you also felt the same type of attachment style between you and your mother. She was there, but she was also not there. And then obviously unhealthy attachment styles in relationships, which is insecurity and can stem from self-insecurity, because we did say they have low self-esteem. And yeah, I think that's it. And for our celebrity examples, I wanted to just get over the gist of what the topic was about today before we get the celebrities to be part of the example making. So we're going to start with Anati, and this is based off of that interview she did with Anele. And I remember watching this interview back in the day. I remember I was at a friend's place at the time. I don't know how we got to watch the episode, because I'm not a TV person. But we ended up watching the episode, and I still remember then I understood Anati's mom, igama lakhe Usis Toko. So Usis Toko actually speaks very candidly about her experience as a mother. So she had Anati in 1993, and she spoke about her lack of connection with the child. And she actually does speak about the fact that I think it was 2 months after Anati was born, she actually had the urge and the need, 2-3 months, it doesn't make sense in the interview whether she went to Italy in the 2 months and then she came back and then in the 3rd month she wanted to go to work. But less than 3 months into her giving birth to her first baby, she didn't feel that connected to the motherhood situation, and she wanted to go to work. And she went to go to work and she started working, and she does speak about her lack of connectivity to motherhood and how she was focused on herself and her dreams and climbing the corporate ladder, and that was her state of mind in terms of what she wanted to do with herself, and that affected her that affected her as a mother. She's very open about that. So from when Anati was 3 months old, the Queen decided that she actually doesn't care much about this motherhood thing. She actually wanted to build a career for herself, and then she went about and she actually did build that career, and that created a wedge between herself and her maternal instincts and her relationship with her children. So Anati has a little sister, Umanala, as well, so she was part and parcel of this. And so she says in her own words, she came back to her children because she wanted to be a mother. In context, from 2 months up until the children were in high school, that's when she actually decided that, okay, now I feel like I should go be a mother and mother my children. Even in that discovery for herself, because obviously the children were old, she couldn't go back and like breastfeed them and be that type of mother. She decided that she was going to be a momager, which is using the skills that she got from the corporate career that she was so focused and dedicated to, and to help her children to actually actualize and materialize, and bring their dreams into life. So she decided to be Anati and Manala's momager later on in life. But when they were in high school, that's when she decided to be a mother and to actually be present for her children. She actually does speak about this extramural activity that Manala was in, that she started attending frequently and started immersing herself into that mother experience. Even now, she does speak about the fact that she is definitely not domesticated. She is very strategic. She's very calculative and logical. Yes. So I wanted to speak about that, and this is very different from what we're going to speak about in terms of Ricky Rick. So Anati's mom, actually, when I listened to her interview, she actually has like very much strong self-awareness with regards to her non-maternality when it comes to being a mother, that cold mother syndrome, and she knows exactly when she started it and when it actually ended, and she actually had like a mitigation strategy of how, now that she actually wants to be a mother, this is how she's going to be a mother. And it was comfortable for her to be able to do that, but it was also comfortable for her children. And in this discussion, both Anati and Manala were there, so I feel like they have an awareness of how their mother was and how she grew and evolved out of that strong masculine-based life into a more feminine, maternal-based life. And I do think that the child that she had later on in life, which was a daughter that was 3-4 at the time of this interview, probably had a different mother to what Manala and Anati did have. So I wanted to bring that to the forefront because she did grow up as a cold, because she started off as a cold mother syndrome, but then later on she moved into her maternal strength and started practicing that. For Anati and Manala, it was, I'm helping you build your career and I can be involved in that. And to the child that she had later on, where she actually healed and grew out of that coldness, I think that child has like a different life to what Anati and Manala actually have and experienced. So that was it. That was good, T. That was a good explanation. Okay. And moving over to Ricky Rick. I know the girl doesn't want to see me coming. My Louisa. So my Louisa situation is very, very the same as Anati's mom in the infancy of things. They were both career driven. Anati had a mother and a father. Fortunately for him, the father was very much maternal, for lack of a better word. He was the one that was more involved in the child's life. The mother was not. But then Sistoko grew into her maternity and she started immersing herself into her children's life. Ricky Rick's mom, on the other side, also grew up as career builder type of woman, cold mother syndrome, and then she got married earlier when she had her first two children, and then she got divorced and never got to remarry after that. And I will say this, I said this on the other episode I did when I was reviewing this book. When I was reading the book, I think the woman has like 4 or 5 children. Every time she was telling me she was pregnant, I was like, what do you mean, Magazi? Because first and foremost, you are not a stable entity. You move from KZN to Cape Town to Italy to Iceland to America to everything else. You don't have a man that can have that, that anchor. Your mom's also very busy with her life, so the children don't have like stability. And that was the first thing that really stuck out for me. I was like, okay, the girl is working, busy, being a lawyer, building the constitution and making sure we have this freedom in this country. Very, very instrumental and very, very important. But she was a cold mother. She was never available to her children. She was never available to Rick, the brother, the other children that she had randomly out of the blue for no reason at all. I will still say that because I was like, girl, you just had a one-night stand. Why are you keeping that baby? Are you getting me? This is not a joke. And so obviously, Maluiza was busy building the country, building our constitution, working very, very hard to make her dreams come true. And that involved a lot of cold parenting, a lot of neglect, a lot of unavailability. And in her book, she actually does speak about the fact that she would come back from work and then she would close the door and shut it, and she wouldn't even bother with the children. And she does make an example when Ricky Rick would make his own fish fingers, and they were just neglected like fully, and they were like being taken up and down everywhere. The mom was never available. She was never there, and so that affected Ricky Rick because the interview I'm going to link down, which is the interview about Cotton Face and his life, he actually talks about his family and the lack of family structure and how that affected him. He actually felt like a nomad. He didn't belong anywhere. And then later on in life, then that got accentuated by his dad passing away. And then he started then getting into drugs and then getting into hood rat behavior. I don't know why I say that. But then he got into that hood rat behavior, and then he literally went downhill from that. Fortunately for him, he was able to build his own little family on the side. I think he's got 2-3 children. But that coldness, that lack of support, that lack of structure, that lack of maternal love from his mother actually stayed with him for a very long time. And Maluiza has got all children now. If you do read the book, which I will suggest that you do, she does speak about how her other children actually, after Ricky Rick's passing, did confront her about her non-availability, lack of maternal, lack of emotional support, and lack of being a mother. And I wanted to add this Ricky Rick's mom situation with, when I was reading the book after Ricky Rick's passing, she actually does speak about an argument she had with Bianca, Ricky Rick's wife, widow, and how she was still talking about the fact that she's emotionally dumping. So I just feel like it's still a work in progress for Maluiza, and then for Anati's mom, it was actually concluded and completed. Oh my God, I hate the fact that this is going to be a long episode. But I'm going to do this last segment very, very quickly. So, if you are a mother that suffers from the cold mother syndrome, this is how you can actually help mitigate this for your own life and for your children's life. The first one is to explore inner child work. Usually these things don't come alone. Abandonment issues from a long time ago. Maybe you were poverty stricken, you wanted to build something for yourself. Being in survival mode doesn't allow you to be in touch with your emotions. So the first thing you need to do is explore inner child work. So go to a therapist, try to find out about your inner child and work that out. The second thing is to allow yourself to feel angry. motherhood is such a difficult thing. It's permanent. It changes your body. You're pregnant for 9 months. Now you have to be dealing with other things. So allow yourself to feel angry and feel all these negative emotions that you want to feel. You are pissed off that you are now actually a mother. And then you need to disconnect yourself and try to find out how you can help heal your own self. And then develop a mindful practice where you meditate, you journal, you do whatever you need to do. And allow yourself to grieve the process. And explore helpful communication. And engage in reparenting and unlearning techniques. And lastly, seek professional help. So that's for the mothers. And then for the children, it's the same thing. Explore your inner work. If you feel like you had a cold mother that made you cold, do the same thing. Explore your inner child. How were you affected? Do you feel abandonment issues? What do you feel? And then allow yourself to feel the emotions that come with it. And allow yourself to disconnect from your mother if you need to. Cut her off. And then do what you need to do. Go see a professional. And then take the steps down to what you need to do in order for yourself to get into a better and healed state of relationship between you and your mother. Oh my God, this is 40 minutes. Thank you guys for joining. I'm we have to run away at this point. Thank you guys for joining, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Cold Mother Syndrome. Do comment, do subscribe, do tell your friends, and yeah, comment down, guys. Telling a teddy. Like, come on. All right.
That's what you think.
Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next week.